Welcome back to my Lore Master playthrough of all of the classic Night Elf zones. We are picking right back up with Darkshore, and as is the case with many classic zones, the story isn't really linear, so if you missed part 1, you haven't actually missed too much that you need to know. I just talked a bunch about the Highborn lore, but I think in this part we're going to dive more into quests that deal with the corruption that Darkshore is suffering from. So without further ado, I think I'm going to get started with the Red Crystal quest, and since I read it last time, I'll just read it again. Hostile moonkin roam in ever-increasing numbers to our east. They once were thought to be gentle, almost mystical creatures. While some continued to hold reverence for them, the safety of Aberdeen forces me to keep a more realistic view. I've received reports that moonkin are being drawn to a large red crystal along Darkshore's eastern mountain range. No one has any idea what that crystal is, or even if it really exists. I want you to locate it over there and report back to me what you find.
How may I help? Good luck, friend.
So the crystal exists? Fascinating. Anyway, your task has been well executed. Good work. What exactly is this crystal? This is but a single question in a sea of questions. Another question that comes to mind is why the moonkin would be drawn to this object. Is the crystal benign in nature, or does it hold a more sinister purpose? I have many more questions, but we're going to need to examine that crystal closely to get some answers.
Del Nadris.
Use this empty vial and fill up on some moonwell water here in Aberdeen. Such potent magic should provide a clue as to the composition of the crystal. To do that, you'll pour the liquid over the crystal. It should take care of the rest. While I don't anticipate anything bad happening to you, I still want you to be careful. Above us to the east is Fellwood. If that crystal is tied to that place, as I suspect it is, then it could prove to be very dangerous.
Goddess watch over you.
The crystal looks very alien against the wooded scenery of Darkshore. You think you hear a very slight humming coming from deep within it. You've made it once more to the mysterious crystal. Removing the stopper on the tube of moonwell water, you gingerly pour the contents out over the top of the crystal. As the water cascades down its lattices, you see the opaque surface turn transparent. The moonwell water has revealed that embedded inside the crystal are a few small fragments of bone, as well as half of a jawbone. The jawbone appears to be from a humanoid, but it is unclear without breaking open the crystal, a feat that even the strongest of magic would find near impossible. With the task at hand complete, all that remains is to report back to Sentinel Glinda Nalshay in Aberdeen.
Ishnu Allah. Farewell.
Well, it would seem that even though we know more about this crystal, more unanswered questions are the result. I'll take the information you've uncovered to the council here in Aberdeen. Perhaps they'll know a course of action to follow on this crystal. Well, that is, if there is one to be taken. For now, the threat remains far enough to our east to be out of harm's way. As for you, please have this. Consider it a reward for a job well done.
Good luck, friend.
So I'll say I literally do not think that we ever learn what was actually going on with the crystal. I think the implication from what she said in the earlier quest is that it probably is from Fellwood, or perhaps demonic in origin, because we will learn pretty much in the quests we're going to do after this that there are satyr in Darkshore corrupting the fur bogs, and so my assumption regarding this crystal, especially since there seems to be like actual body parts inside it, is that it is just another form of corruption. But honestly, we never learn. It's never explained to us beyond this quest. That's pretty much all the information we ever get on it. Nor is it even really explained why the moonkin are drawn to it. I will say we will learn much later, like really close to max level in a major lore questline that comes out of Winterspring, that the Moonkin were actually created by Elune to protect her sacred sites and locations. But I don't think the Moonkin are drawn to this crystal because it's like sacred to Elune per se. And in fact, I'm not sure it has any bearing on it whatsoever. Perhaps just some extra context that could be useful, but I have no good theory beyond thinking that this is in some way related to Felwood corruption. I wasn't originally planning on it, but I think as a refresher from part 1, any of the quests that I picked up then that I'm doing now, I will reread. So, how big a threat? Some of my brethren were rescued from a corrupt furbog in Teldrassil, and I vowed to stop any more atrocities before more of our kind are injured, or worse. I've seen a couple hints of corruption in Darkshore already, but I've yet to find any widespread signs. I think it would be logical if the investigation continued with the furbogs. Would you find one of their camps and return to me if you see any signs of corruption? So I know in Teldrassil, the furbogs were pretty much being corrupted by Xavius and the corruption of the World Tree. So the question when it comes to Darkshore is sort of, okay, this isn't Teldrassil, why are they being corrupted here? And we will learn in these quests, so maybe I won't give it away yet. But it's a different thing.
Peace be with you.
This is terrible news indeed. With the furbogs this close to Aberdeen, we'll have to prepare ourselves for the inevitable. Thank you.
Farewell.
You've already proven adept at scouting our enemy. Do you have what it takes to fight them as well? Not all adventurers prefer straightforward combat to the art of stealth and evasion. If you think you're up for the task, then the furbog camp south of Aberdeen is currently the biggest threat to our people. You'll find some of the Blackwood tribe there. Kill 8 Pathfinders and 5 Windtalkers, and return to me here.
Good luck, friend. What brings you here?
Your scouting of the furbog camp is information that Thunderous Windweaver should be made aware of. He graciously serves as the Elder of Aberdeen, offering sage and just stewardship of the day-to-day affairs of the village. Please, share with him your findings to date on the furbog situation. I believe he has some ideas of his own on the reasons behind the corruption. Perhaps you can work with him to enact a plan to restore the balance of nature here.
Go in peace.
And Thunderous Weaver, I did it again, is, I guess the guy who's heading the Aberdeen Council that was mentioned in the Red Crystal quest we just did, but then also the, other quest. I forget which one. One of the quests in part 1. One of those.
Ishnuala.
Well met, Druid. Your scouting of the furbog situation comes at a fortuitous time for us in Aberdeen. For some time, we've dealt with not only forest dwellers who are now openly hostile to our presence, but also the outright corruption of the forest itself. Hopefully you might be able to lend Aberdeen aid during these troubling times.
Good luck, friend.
The Cliffspring River has begun turning foul and corrupted. It empties into the Mist's Edge, and I fear the wash will affect Aberdeen soon. I suspect the Blackwood furbogs upriver are the cause of the taint, but I also suspect that they aren't the true root of it. Take this sampling tube and go to the mouth of the river to our north. Proceed inland to the first waterfall and draw a sample from the pool there. You'll see a bridge overhead. Once you have a sample, return to me in Aberdeen. Alright, so I want to reiterate something after turning that quest in. Aside from the ocean, Darkshore has 2 principal sources of water. Cliffspring Falls in the north and Wildbend River in the south. The source of Wildbend River is actually in Felwood. That water comes straight from Felwood itself. Cliffspring Falls, however, seem to originate right on the border between Felwood and Darkshore. It doesn't technically start in Felwood, but it starts pretty much right under it, which to me, I feel like is close enough to say that it is being corrupted by Felwood, considering what we know about how Felwood's corruption is slowly expanding into surrounding territories like Ashenvale. And technically, even if it weren't actually corrupted by Felwood, we do learn in this quest that the Furbolg seem to be tainting the water. So, regardless of how it happened, whether directly because of Felwood corruption or indirectly because the water is intentionally being tainted, the water in Darkshore is corrupted. And that's why many of the creatures drinking from it are becoming poisoned, such as the rabid thistlebears or the corrupted deers, which are an important part of a druid quest. That druid quest actually does say that the water is a primary source of sickness spreading, but that there's also something else at work, something mentioned in this quest. But we're also going to learn that the Furbolg are actually being corrupted by a satyr, a demon, presumably from Felwood, or at least working at the behest of corrupting things for the Burning Legion. So this is a very roundabout way of saying that directly or indirectly, it is the corruption going on in Felwood that's responsible for the corruption occurring in Darkshore, but some of it is through water flow from Felwood, and some of it is through a demon who's corrupting the Furbolg, who are then corrupting the local water source that all of the other creatures are drinking from, and then themselves becoming corrupted. The remains of a giant thresher, much larger than one you'd expect to find in Darkshore, lie beached on the coast of the Mist's Edge. How this creature came to be here is unknown. The group of murlocs that now feast off the carcass of it seem to be much too weak, even in large numbers, to have brought down the beast. While some of it has been picked clean, enough of it remains to take a sample for Gwyneth Bly-Legond in Aberdeen to study. More sea turtle remains lie beached along the coastline. This particular set has an abandoned carriage attached to the turtle's shell. Perhaps this creature was driven to the shoreline by unknown beings rather than beaching itself as some of the other remains suggested. Grey Mist Murlocs now make the remains of this creature their home, feasting off the carrion. In the carriage you find a box with strange markings on it. Perhaps Gwyneth Bly-Legond in Aberdeen can make sense of it. Okay, so this is something that I was also very excited to talk about. So when people see this, they often think of the Pandaren. These are very similar to like the Pandaren turtles, especially with the carriage on them. But what I actually think is going on here, because this obviously is not related to the Pandaren in any way, shape, or form, is that these were the seamounts of Naga. Now, interestingly enough, I think there's a battle pet that has text on it, lore text on it, or something that says that the Naga are afraid of turtles. But we'll learn in the Cave Mushrooms quest that there's a whole bunch of Naga that have moved inland into this cave that weren't here before. Small piece of information. The Naga used to be highborn night elves 10,000 years ago, and when the world sundered and Ajar would have drowned, she made a deal with N'Zoth. She would agree to ally with him and further his aims as long as he saved her people. And so he transformed her and her loyalists into Naga. Now, at this point in time, the Naga have mostly been hiding under the ocean for 10,000 years, and it is also important to say that the Night Elves do not actually know that the Naga used to be Night Elves. But anyhow, this is all to say that I think the Naga in Darkshore are a relatively recent appearance, and that the way that they got here actually was by riding these turtles up onto the beach and then moving inland, because the Naga here are actually pretty close to this actual location where this turtle is. And I expect that the quest item that we pick up, the box with strange markings on it, is that it's like a Naga box, and that the markings are perhaps the Naga language, which is Nazja? Oh yeah, and there's Naga up here in Mythistra too. I forgot that they were actually not as far as the cave. I will say, as with many things in Classic, we don't actually learn why the heck they're in Mythistra. There's a pretty, like, running trend of Naga and old Highborn ruins, which I assume, because they're former Highborn themselves, that they're looking for artifacts from these cities that they know are there because they're literally the original inhabitants of these cities. And so it just makes sense that they, like, came in on these turtles or whatever, parked, and went into the ruins to search. And it's really interesting. Like, I know it's part of the mystery and the open world vibe of classic vanilla, but it's interesting that we never get more information on that. Like, it's a complete mystery. The skeletal remains of a sea turtle lie in the sand of the northern Darkshore beaches. The Grey Mist Murlocs have either not found this carcass, or perhaps they have and are shying away from it for some unknown reason. Regardless, there is enough of the turtle left to take a sample back to Gwyneth Bly-Legond in Aberdeen for the Temple of the Moon to study. This one doesn't have a carriage on it, so I'm assuming this one is not specifically related to the Naga. Actually, like, now that I think about it, I wonder if they deliberately enslaved the turtles. If you remember Vashir quests at all, there's, like, Nespira, who I don't even know what she technically qualifies as, but she's that giant crustacean shell god-like creature, and she was technically forcibly enslaved by the Naga. And so I wonder if the Naga, like, enslaved the sea turtles and put carriages on some of them and used them to ride inland, because we never see the sea turtle mounts mentioned again. Like, even when we go to Nazjatar and stuff, for the most part, the Naga don't really use any form of transportation. They just appear places. But also, given that Battle Pet lore text about how they're supposedly afraid of turtles, which I don't really know how that factors into this. Like, something there doesn't quite add up. But it would make sense considering that they literally have just been beached and have been left to die. Like, I know that the Naga probably wouldn't really care about them anyway, but I think if they're creatures that they randomly stumbled across, like other aquatic creatures, and used them purely as vehicles, then they didn't really care if they lived or not.
I am listening.
The pollution of the Cliffspring River is but the start of an alarming trend here in Darkshore. The sample you provide will help us formalize a plan. A plan of attack, I'm starting to suspect.
May the stars guide you.
It's no surprise how tainted this water is, but just look at how putrid it is becoming. It would seem that action is needed sooner than later, huh? To our east is Felwood. It is the real source of this corruption, one that I've seen in times past. I predict the sample would confirm this. We might be able to enact a cure for it here, but in order to even try, we will need assistance. When that time comes, I hope you will be able to give the aid we need.
Good luck, friend.
We've learned that a source of furbog corruption is from the satyr. They hold sway via talismans that they channel magic through. If the furbog have a chance at salvation, we must lure out the satyr corruptor and take that talisman. Fill this bowl at our moonwell and take samples of the furbog's food from their northern camp. Mix them and place it near the bonfire by the river. Any furbogs who eat will be cleansed just long enough to lure out the satyr corruptor, who then you must slay.
May the stars guide you.
Ishnudal Dieb.
Perhaps one day we'll find a means to prevent these poor creatures from ending their lives needlessly on the coast of Darkshore. Until then, we must continue our research. Greetings. What news do you bring?
Goddess watch over.
Another discovery. Well done. These remains will be properly studied once they get to Darnassus. Please accept this small honorarium in exchange for the remains you've provided for our study.
Asha Fela.
It is a pleasure to see you again. We're making great strides in uncovering the mystery of why majestic sea creatures beach themselves on the Darkshore coastline. But with every question answered, 2 more are raised, it seems. Are you here to offer us more aid in our research?
Elune light your path.
I've heard of the kinds of carriages found on the back of the turtle you found. Those, I do believe, are Naga carriages, used both in battle and in transportation of their supplies onto land. The markings on the box you found are of the Naga. This would explain their invasive presence in far northern Darkshore. I'll send this box to Darnassus along with the rest of your discoveries. This is for you. Thank you again for your assistance.
May the stars guide you.
Hello once again. Have you found any more beached creatures that the Temple of the Moon should know about?
Asha Fela.
It is interesting that the Murlocs were not present at this site. We'll keep this in mind as we study this creature's remains. Thank you for your effort. The Temple of the Moon would like for me to give you this as compensation for your time.
Elune light your path.
And then I incidentally finished the Plagued Lands quest, so I'll reread that one. A sickness spreads across the Darkshore, gripping the minds and bodies of all it touches. The Thistlebearers have been hit the hardest by this plague. The once noble beasts are now an instrument of destruction, rabid and frenzied. I may have a cure for this ailment. Take this trap to the forest and lay it on the ground. Any rabid thistlebear that crosses the light shall become docile for a short time. Once the bear is docile, it shall follow you. Lead it back here.
Can I assist you? Be careful.
Our work has only just begun. Are you prepared for your next task?
Elune light your path.
As I'd feared, the cure does not work. It saddens me greatly to order the death of any of nature's beasts, but the sick and tainted thistlebears must be put down. Return to the forest and destroy 20 rabid thistlebears. It will most certainly not put a stop to the plague, but it will slow down the damage the animals are doing to our forest and its inhabitants for a short time.
Good luck, friend. What brings you here? Goddess, watch over you.
You've done Aberdeen a great service, but your task is not yet complete. Return to me once you've rested, and prepare your mind and soul for more bloodshed.
Till next we meet.
The survival of our people and lands comes at unfortunate costs. You've spilled the blood of nature's servants. Many sick animals you've felled. The people of Aberdeen are indebted to you, for the forest's pain is eased, even if only for a moment. I have one final task for you, but be warned, you will have to kill again. It is my hope that this will be the last time I call upon you. In a cave to the northeast, near Bashal-Ran, resides the Den Mother. Slay her.
Elune light your path.
I am honored, Delnadris.
Wash the blood from your garments and do not mourn what you've had to do. Instead, give thanks. You've lessened the threat to our people here in Aberdeen, even if Darkshore is still in jeopardy from the effects of Felmos.
Go in peace. Greetings.
The Talisman of Corruption is a sinister device that only serves to pervert the balance of nature. When you obtain this item from whatever satyr is tormenting the Furbogs, and bring it to me for disposal, we will have won a great victory this day.
May the stars guide
You've just begun this war to reclaim our forest from the forces of corruption, but a battle this day has been won. The people of Aberdeen owe you a debt of gratitude that will never be easily repaid. Please accept this along with our thanks. What we've learned here today may one day free our Furbog friends from the shackles of torment permanently.
Good luck, friend.
Elune be with you.
You fought for Aberdeen with bravery and honor. In our war-torn lands, death and despair are common. Many will not rise to meet the challenge of life in our new home, choosing instead to hide in their homes or escape to the more fortified lands of the Alliance. Thank you. Perhaps someday soon we shall fight alongside as comrades versus another foe.
May the stars guide you.
And I think that's a good place to camp off here, since that's pretty much most of the quests that deal with the topic of corruption in Darkshore. Not all, but many of them. So I figure next time I will finally work my way through all of the Buzzbox quests. We'll deal with the Naga. We still have to do the Tower of Outtakes quests, not to mention everything around the Master's Glaive in the south, the Grove of Ancients, which is connected, and the Rem Travel quests, the Rem Travel's Dig. So this might actually end up being 4 parts instead of 3, like I'd assumed. But I would say aside from the Tower of Outtakes and the Master's Glaive stuff, a lot of the other things remaining in the zone are pretty disconnected and sort of about all different sorts of things. So that is all for now. Thank you for joining me for this little bit of lore about Darkshore, and I hope to see you in part 3. Hello? I don't like this. Oh, I didn't do the bowl in the Moonwell. That would have been bad. These are the questions that keep me up at night. Okay. Okay. The corpse in front of the cave is so telling. I guess I've become the corpse. Again. Excuse me.
Greetings.
Can I have my quest back?
May the stars guide you. Peace be with you.
The struggle's real today. Just sitting on 20 million herbs in my inventory.